Welcome to Find the Next Big Thing with the YouTube Analytics API. I'm Ted Hamilton. I'm a product manager for YouTube Analytics out of our Zurich office. I'm here with Jeremy Walker, one of our developer advocates, and then Kris Schroder from the Next Big Sound, who is an early guinea pig, an early adopter for the YouTube Analytics API. So very quickly, I'll go through, give you an introduction of YouTube Analytics and what the API is capable of doing. Jeremy will walk through and actually show you how to use the thing. And then Kris is going to show you what the cool things that they've actually done with the API. And then at the end, I'll come back and talk a little bit about what's ahead for the API, and then we'll go into Q&A. So, YouTube Analytics. Why does YouTube Analytics matter? Historically, video has had very little data around it, right? I mean, if you think back in the day, people would do screenings, have surveys, have panels. They'd put together a pilot show, right? And then see how people reacted to that, and then make huge decisions based on just this little amount of information. But right now, we're bringing absolute truckloads of data to video. We're bringing transparency to the black box. So I don't know, have most of you used YouTube Analytics? Does this look familiar to you? Yeah, actually, let's get a show of hands. How many people are actually using our API today? How many are considering it? And how many are just looking for a good Wi-Fi signal? All right, that guy. Cool. So yeah, this is basically our overview page in YouTube Analytics. Other things that we have, we have maps of average view duration. We have breakdowns of playback locations and traffic sources. We have the drop-off curves. Like, where do people actually start falling off your videos? Which parts do they fast forward to? Lots of really good stuff. But what happens when you want to do more than our UI offers? What happens when your YouTube data is important, right? But what about your Facebook data or your Twitter data? What happens when you have success metrics that are different from the ones that we offer? Maybe you have some sort of derived metric like subscribers per view, something like that. Well, when you want to do more than what our UI offers, dun, 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 YouTube Analytics API. That's what you're all here for. Our API is broken down into three main components. So the metrics, our big ones are views, minutes watched, money, of course, subscribers, and then there's a whole host of other things. You can break these down by date. You get a time series of these. You can see how it's broken down by geography, by content entity, by channel, or by video, traffic source, etc. And then, of course, you can filter things down to only see a specific date, date range, specific geography, or one particular video or channel. And Jeremy, if you want to show us how to use it?
Sure. So, hi, my name's Jeremy Walker. I'm a YouTube developer advocate, and I'm going to kind of jump into more of the details about the technical details about how and why you want to use the Analytics API. So, how am I going to show you guys this? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something interesting I learned from using the API, and then I'm going to show you an example. So, it's going to be a cycle. Interesting insight, how did I do it? Interesting insight, how did I do it? Interesting insight, how did I do it? So I'm going to do 3 use cases. The first one will be popularity by country. So I'm going to show you some videos I picked out on that. Annotations, so how does overlays impact your minutes watched? And just so you guys know, I'm pulling this information from the Google Developers channel, which is a channel we use to teach about our APIs, and I'm specifically focusing on YouTube API videos. And then finally, what's the best length for your video? The age-old question, long form versus short form. So any of you that don't know, short form is like shorter videos, and then long forms is like much longer videos, like half an hour or whatever. So I thought it would be appropriate to grab one of the 2012 talks that we did on YouTube. So what I did is I set up a script that ran through and grabbed all the YouTube-related I/O videos last year and displayed them based on country and views. And I actually grabbed this one. This is about the embeddable YouTube upload widget, which Jeff and Eric talked about last year. It just simplifies uploading videos, among other things. And what was actually kind of interesting about it was how the views broke down. No. So I just took the top 4, and Russia and India were about on par for views. The US was actually about 48% higher in views than Russia, and Brazil was actually about 14% higher in views than the USA. So why is that interesting? Well, if you're making this video, then it's kind of important because now you have this large audience in Brazil and Russia that maybe you didn't even know about. Then you start thinking of ways, how can I incorporate them into my videos so that I can continue that growth that's happening, maybe without much work that I'm doing on my side. Now, what's really interesting about this is actually the video had little annotations on it so you could click through to the documentation. So the next thing I did is I grabbed the order of that, and so third and fourth, the lowest click-through rates were the USA and India, and then Russia was second, and Brazil was first. But what's really interesting is the percentage differences. So Russia actually, they were 27% more likely to click through than USA. So that's kind of interesting. And then Brazil was actually 55% more likely to click through. So again, what does this all mean? What does it mean to you? So if you're the owner of the video, then you're thinking, okay, top 3 countries, I've got Brazil, USA, and Russia. And then the click-through rates are Brazil and Russia, and they're way higher than USA. So what's that mean? Well, in Brazil, they speak Portuguese, and not a lot of people necessarily know English there. So maybe they're very interested in the subject matter, but they don't understand it, so they have to click through to read or have it translated through there. So same with Russia. So what could you do? You could put some budget aside and have some captions added for Portuguese and Russian, and then you could take it a step further and start pulling minutes watched to see if that's increasing your minutes watched, because that's what a lot of people measure their success on. So that's just one of the use cases. So you can see there, that's pretty interesting, and that would be very powerful to know for a video creator. So how did I pull this information? Well, first, I'm going to do a high-level view of how to get a report. So first off, you need to authorize and authenticate, so you can't just get a channel's information. You have to sign in and do that stuff. But we have a way to authorize that through OAuth 2, and then you can authenticate through an access token. Next, you'll want to get your channel ID. So a channel ID is like this long string of characters that it's like, nobody has it memorized, I don't. So you hit up the YouTube data API, it's another API which you use for general stuff that you do on YouTube. Specifically, we just need the channel ID. And then you use the analytics API to get your report. So first, I'm going to show you guys the API Explorer. Not a lot of people use this. Oh, well, not enough people use this yet. It's a great tool. As a best practice, you should always use this before you write any code, because you'll find that you resolve most of your code problems here first before you move it over. I work on the analytics API with people that work on it, and they have a lot of people have trouble saying, oh, this library has a bug in it, but they're trying to run a report that doesn't exist or it doesn't work together. So it's always a good idea to do this first. You don't have to write any code, and it lets you do everything to start with. And then you can port that right over to your code. So I'm actually going to show you that. Let me pull up an example here. Okay, so I've been talking about my channel, or the YouTube channel, but I wanted to show you guys some extra information as well. I have my own channel, which has some mildly popular videos. Well, that's probably blowing it up a little bit. But anyway, I did run some of my own reports to see how it was doing, to see if there's any countries that were interested in my content. So by the way, to find this API Explorer, just do a search for Google API Explorer. You choose the YouTube Analytics API, or you can choose search YouTube Analytics API, and we've got it right there on one of the pages. So anyway, you authenticate here, or sorry, authorize. And this should go up. And then you can see here, this is a channel report. So this is what I would get from the data API. And then I just put in dates, views, and then I do the dimension, country. And then in this case, I'm writing this video ID, which is the video I'm trying to do. So let's see here. OK, so what am I getting back here? I'm getting JSON back. You could get a CSV back. But the top value is country and then views. And so in January of 2012, you can see in Bulgaria, this video got 4,500 views. And in the USA, it got 100, which is probably more than my normal. So why did it blow up in Bulgaria? Well, I don't know. But if I was tracking this and with the APIs, I could get a ping saying, hey, you're blowing up in Bulgaria. Go check it out. And then you can say, whoa, what's going on? And then help that. Maybe you could promote it even more because you figure out what's going on there. Anyway. So if you guys remember when I set these values here, just look at these. So channel ID, date, views, and country. Now I'll flip back over to my presentation. And you'll see that when I move to the code, wow, it looks like exactly the same, right? I didn't show an annotation click-through rate because I didn't have one on that video, but you get the idea. You port these values almost over exactly, and you're done. So then you get your, this is Java, but it could be JavaScript or whatever you want. All right, so let's go to another example. So we're at number 2. So annotations, these are click-through. This is the wrong way to do it. People will leave. So, but I did decide to push it a little bit, and what I did is I took one of our more popular YouTube API videos, and I added kind of a ugly click-through that was pretty big. So if you don't know, we have a YouTube Android Player API that lets you play videos in your Android app. And so you don't leave the experience. Like Flipboard lets you do that. It's a really nice experience. But I put this on there to see what it would do to minutes watched. So I did it for 7 days. So 7 days before, it dropped almost 10% the minutes watched. And then when I lifted it, it went up 14%. So I have no idea why it went up 4 more percent. Maybe you should put an overlay on and pull it, and then you'll, I don't know. Anyway, this is pretty interesting to me because it shows like, well, do people, does this negatively impact your videos? And some people would say, well, yes. For us, not really, because what's our message? We just want to educate people on our APIs. And maybe this drives them and they start reading the documentation and start coding in it. But if you're doing this for like maybe entertainment or something, maybe this wouldn't be a good metric, which is what I'm going to show you on another one of my videos. So I actually ran 2. I'm going to show you before and after. I put a really ugly one on one of my videos just to see what would happen. Again, I want to authorize. To see what would happen if I did this on mine. So I added an ugly one that had nothing to do with the video, and it wasn't. This video is not for educational purposes. It's more for entertainment. You can see really everything's the same minus the metrics. I just changed to estimated minutes watched. I just execute it. You can see here's the request, the response. OK, I have about 165 minutes watched. So again, that's for the week before. And then the week after, again, don't forget to authorize. Let's see what happens. OK, wow, I lost a half an hour just by adding an overlay. So people didn't like the overlay on mine. And so that's bad. So overlays are bad for me, or annotations. So anyway, if you look at the code, again, have a look. Just remember this dates, estimated minutes watched, the video ID. And then if you look at the code here, it's the same thing, right? So it's just quick port, real easy. OK, I've got one more example, and then we'll be done. So part of the Google Developers channel, one of the main things we do is this Google Developers Live, which is a live show we do once a week. And what's interesting is it started like a year ago, And we were doing like an hour-long shows, right? The first half was like usually an interview, and then we do best practice. And like as time passed, we were like, this is probably too long. Let's cut it in half. Like, let's split it out. So then we started doing like either an interview or best practices. And then over time, we've kind of narrowed it down and down. So I thought, well, I'll grab some numbers from some of those videos and see how the minutes watched went. Kind of the same metric I grabbed in the last example, but for a different use case. So this video is 50 minutes, and what happened was when we cut it in half, the minutes watched went up 110%. So people liked shorter videos, and then it actually went up another 25% when we cut more time off of it. So shorter's better. So we're still trying to figure out the optimum time. For us, we want to get the message across. Maybe we go down a little bit more, but this is interesting, right? If you're making video or doing video production, less work means more time people watch, right? So if we do less work, we get more. You see what I'm saying? So this is pretty interesting. Now, how did I get this? It's the same report. It's estimated minutes watched. And that's the same report, so I probably won't show that to you guys. But you can pull it as a content owner as well if you want. If you have multiple channels, we have another report type where you may own 1 or 2 or 3 channels, and this allows you to pull one of those or all of them separately or all together. And instead of channel ID, you just put content owner and drop in your username there. But you can see the report's pretty much the same. And if you want to find out a little bit more on how to do this, I did a pre-IO session. It's about 10 minutes where I walk through this in much more detail. Check that out. It's on the Google Developer channel. All right, so those are my 3 examples. Hopefully you got something out of it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kris, who's going to talk about pulling our data and combining it with other data to find even more interesting insights.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. My name is Kris Schroder. I'm an engineer at Next Big Sound. And right now I'm going to talk about the ways that our company and our customers use the YouTube Analytics API and the data from the API. So Next Big Sound tracks the online activity for almost every band in the world. And we organize that data into a centralized dashboard, which we provide back to the music industry. And our customers include both individual bands and band managers who are trying to grow their fan base, understand their fan base, and promote themselves, as well as the record labels who invest heavily in developing artists and marketing artists. And they want to back the decisions they make up with, they want to back up their decisions with data and make intelligent decisions. So let's jump into our first example. We're going to look at data for a well-established and award-winning indie rock band. All right? And earlier this year, they did a live television appearance at an award show where they performed. Okay? And now if you're a label or you're the band, what's important here is understanding the impact that you made, right? You're not probably getting paid to do the performance itself. What you're really interested in how it drives the awareness around the band, right? And how it drives people online to take action and learn about your band. So this is a screenshot from our product. And what we're looking at here is a graph over 90 days of YouTube analytic metrics, a 90-day period around the key event, the award show. All right, and in this case, we've selected 3 YouTube Analytics metrics: views, comments, and likes. So over here on the right-hand side, you can see that what we've done is overlay an event stream for the artist. So for each artist, we're tracking album releases, chart appearances, as well as concert performances, and activity on social media platforms. So in this case, you can see that on Twitter and Facebook, it's indicating to us that they did, in fact, perform at this award show. Right? And you can see from the dramatic spike in the data in the middle here that the appearance was a success. So in the days before the award show, the numbers were around like 150,000 views per day. And then it jumped about 450% the day after the show to over 500,000 views in a single day. All right, so that's a lot of great information. You can also see here earlier, you can sort of tell that there was buzz increasing before the show and leading up to the show from the band in about the 2 weeks prior. Right, so now if you're the label, as next steps, what you might want to do is compare other artists that also performed on this show. Or other times your band here performed on other TV shows and get a comparison. So this is the sort of data-driven approach that Next Big Sound makes possible. In the words of Forbes, Moneyball for music. Right? And I think that's a really great analogy because the same way that data and analytics revolutionized baseball, the same thing's happening in the music industry. Right? If you think about how much the industry is changing, the different ways people can go online and consume music, learn about bands, share music, discover music, as well as the different ways artists can now connect directly with fans, it's really critical to have a platform like Next Big Sound that gives you the data to make sense of all those signals. And YouTube Analytics in particular is very interesting for our customers. Right? Not only on YouTube is it a great way for fans to connect with artists, but also it's opening up new ways for artists to become successful and break. Right? Think about just recent examples, the Harlem Shake, right? That meme, as well as a viral video for Gangnam Style. Right? Also, a lot of artists and some labels, revenue from YouTube is very significant for them. It's part of their business model. And then for record labels, also being able to find and develop talent in a new way using YouTube. YouTube Analytics in particular adds a new level of granularity and detail to the data that's available. So the geographic and demographic insights that Jeremy was alluding to, as well as new types of metrics that are really interesting, unique views, comments, shares, also watch time metrics. And by bringing all that data into the Next Big Sound platform, as an artist, you're able to compare yourself to similar artists or competitive artists, as well as maybe artists that you're aspiring towards that are kind of like a role model for your band. And then also do cross-network comparisons and be able to look at YouTube Analytics data alongside metrics and events from other social networks. And so in addition to YouTube, we're collecting from a wide variety of sources. Just real quick, social media sources, internet radio, terrestrial radio, sales data from our customers, including iTunes and digital downloads from Amazon as well. Right? So it's a wide variety of data, very unique data set that we have and very valuable. So let's look at another example, this time for geography. We're looking at the geographic data, 3 different YouTube Analytics metrics for the same artist. Right? And this artist is an up-and-coming British pop singer. Right? And she's popular in the UK, and their team is trying to break her into the US market. And so that's kind of the story that's happening here. Interestingly, on the left-hand side, if we look at views, the highest percentage of views for her is still coming from the United Kingdom. But if we look at new fans, or the subscribers metric, you can see that the highest percentage is coming from the United States. Also, likes, which is a form of engagement, is also coming in the highest percentage from the United States. So the story that's being told here matches up with the efforts that her team are working on. So it's good signals for them. Here's an example using the same demographics for the same artist, but on 2 different social networks. So this artist is a well-known, established jazz and pop singer who has several #1 albums. He's got mass appeal across a wide variety of audiences. But interestingly, in this case, in the social network on the left, his fan base skews heavily female, in the 18 to 24 range. Whereas on YouTube on the left, his fan base is much more evenly distributed. So this is really useful information in terms of what type of content the singer and his team is going to post to these different networks. Right, so it's really good information to have. YouTube data is also allowing us to give key insights to the music industry. Right? So our data analytics team, the question in this case that we're trying to address is the relationship between social media and sales. Is there a relationship, and what's that like? So our data science team did an analysis on iTunes sales and radio spins compared to key social media metrics from a variety of the major networks. Right? And so a couple of findings. One of the key ones that was very interesting is that when you looked at values for the same day, the highest correlation of any social media metric to sales, or to track sales specifically, was YouTube. Right? Number one on this list is radio spins. That's sort of been the de facto standard in the industry for forecasting sales. And so to see YouTube plays right up there with it is a really good sign. Right? And so the suggestion here is that consumers are going on YouTube and they're learning about the tracks from YouTube that they plan on possibly buying next, right? And so it's the message that it's very important to have high-quality YouTube content with your artist. So just to share a little bit about our own experiences working with the API. The API is extremely flexible. It felt like everything that was available in the in the user's analytics dashboard was also available through the API. And working with it was very straightforward. Our OAuth 2 integration was standard. Our data collector is simply a Java app with a standard HTTP client, and everything's formatted in JSON, so there's no surprises there. Basically, everything worked as advertised. For us, one thing to note, your auth tokens. It's important they can expire pretty frequently. So it's important to refresh them and handle those types of connection errors that you get that are going to be common. That's just kind of the nature of working with an API. Probably our biggest challenge working with the API was just how we constructed our queries and being mindful of that. Basically, we're collecting a wide variety of data. Daily values for many metrics for each video associated with a channel for each artist, right? Also with geo-granularity. So for us, we learned that breaking down the data by geography as well as by day in the same query you can't really do, and certain metrics also don't get combined well in the API. So you just have to be mindful of that and be careful about the number of queries you end up making, and being careful not to use too much quota. So for us, we're really excited about the scheduled reports sort of bulk data feature that the YouTube team has been telling us about. And then lastly, just a couple of tips. I'd say, kind of reiterating what Jeremy mentioned, that YouTube API Explorer is awesome. It's really cleared up any mystery around how the API works. It really should be your best friend when you're working with the API. And also, post questions to Stack Overflow, because the team gets back to you pretty quickly, and it's really been a help for us too. Great. Let me pass it back to Ted.
Right,
Thank you.
Thanks. That was awesome. All right, so what's up next for us? Devices, yes. We have very shortly, you'll see a device report appear in our UI, and then shortly thereafter, it'll be available in the API. So you can finally see, the trends of, how quickly people are moving to mobile, and what different, viewing behaviors people have on different devices. We'll also break it down by operating system, so you can see if there's a material difference based on kind of what app people are using, et cetera. Audience retention. So our audience retention curves are very, very useful, but have not been available for the API ever. We will make sure to add that soon. And then lastly, bulk data. So our API right now is designed around point queries. You ask a very specific question, and we give you a specific answer. This is great for dashboards, it's great for apps, et cetera. But when you have like the data warehousing use case, where you actually just want to transfer all of that data over into your database, you have to ask a lot of queries, right? And this uses a lot of quota. So we want to build a way that you can actually schedule a query, we process it offline, and then you can just download all of it. This has been a big, long ask. But in general, we want the API to have every bit of the capability that the UI has, and even go beyond that. right? It'd be, in an ideal world, we would be exposing data through our API before it even makes it into our UI. So thank you very much. We now have some time for questions. If you have a question, please use the microphone so we can catch it on our recording.
I'll go first. Thanks, guys. Great presentation. My name is Mark. I come from Pixability in Boston. Do you have a time frame on the bulk data thing? Because multi-dimensional queries would be brilliant.
Yeah, so it's always tough. Like things that you think can, would be very quick can tend to have problems, et cetera. So I can't give anything very specific, but it is very high on the priority list. So I would hope, sometime later this summer or in the fall, we would have that available.
And if you need anyone to try it out first, I'm quite happy to do that.
Great. Yeah. Talk to me afterwards. We can take your name down. Anybody else? Can you please use the microphone?
Just so it's available on the stream. So the bulk data, can you give a little bit more perspective on quotas, method of access, et cetera?
No, not really too much. And that we haven't gotten to that stage of planning, but I mean, it should be, if we can process this offline and then you can just download it, you're not hitting our servers to do any processing. So it should alleviate a lot of the quota pains that you guys are having.
Hey, how you doing? Any of the new data points going to require additional scope requests?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Are any of the new data points that you're going to release going to require additional scope requests for the content owner, from the content owner?
I don't know. Christoph, actually, do you have an answer to that question? Christoph, in the crowd here, is our lead developer on the API.
Haven't used the microphone.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay. And then related to that, do you guys have any plans to allow us to get analytics for channels for which we don't have credentials, but who are giving away the analytics anyway?
Yeah, so actually, could I ask you to first repeat the answer for the people on the recording of what Christoph told you?
Sure, he said everything would be available under the current scopes.
Okay, great. And so the answer of, basically, the question of will we be giving out more public data? Philosophically, yes, this is something that would be marvelous. If people are willing to contribute their data so other people can learn, that's something that we would want to enable. That's probably not on the priority list for this year, but definitely that's a direction that we'd like to head. All right, if there are no more questions, we actually will be in the sandbox, just down the hall here. Go down and to the right is the YouTube sandbox. We'll be there right after this presentation, and actually I've been hanging out there for most of the time. So if you have any questions you didn't want to ask in front of everyone or didn't think of it right away, just come by and visit us and we'd be happy to answer your questions. All right, thank you very much.